Good morning, Cincinnati, and welcome in to another episode of the Bearcat Brunch, brought to you by our brand new sponsor and very fitting considering the humidity we all endured yesterday, Live Healthy Hydrate, locally owned and operated by emergency medicine certified physicians, nurse practitioners, and registered nurses with 120 plus years of combined experience in critical care medicine, utilizing our knowledge and expertise to maximize our clients' health, safety, and comfort. With 3 locations in the Cincinnati area, LHH offers treatments for weekend recovery, game day preparation for hydration, and rapid recovery. Everybody knows what that means. They offer the popular Myers cocktail as well as the premium proprietary Crown Jewel cocktail, along with customized treatments such as Glow Up, For the Love of Pregnancy, and Feeling Slender. Add-on injections such as B12, Toradol, Zofran, magnesium, zinc, and many more are also available. Most IV treatments are $99.99, as well as some custom and premium treatments at $129.99. Gift cards are available, and make sure to check them out on Facebook, Instagram, X, and at livehealthyhydrate.com. And with that, we are here with a winning Sunday morning. I am your host, David Simone, brought along with me, as always, except for last week, Jeff Howe, to talk about the Bearcats' 38-20 victory over Townsend. Jeff, how are we doing this morning?
I'm doing very, very well. How are you, Dave?
I am loving that we got no rain. It was very humid, but no rain was good. We had no delays like all the schools in Kentucky, West Virginia, and Virginia yesterday. So
Yeah.
that was nice. I'm glad the Bearcats won, and I'm glad that college football is officially here.
Yeah. I'm just really excited to. I know it's Townsend or whatever. But it's a victory, right? And you're kind of moving back in that direction, and hopefully, each week, we're more and more excited as opposed to last year where we kind of started as a little bit of a stumble.
I'm hoping that that we can talk about some more wins because winning is fun. So
Winning's always fun. Winning fixes everything.
Winning does fix a lot of things. So we will. I know where I want to start. I always kind of give you the floor at the beginning to give your first, your initial reaction to the game. So why don't you go ahead and go, and we'll kind of go from there.
All right. I was impressed with Sorsby. I know that it got tweeted out there, got put out there. It was nice to see a quarterback kind of go through progressions, take what the defense was giving him, and
there was no sarcasm in that tweet whatsoever.
None at all. So yeah, that was good to see. He looked poised in there. Obviously, what did he have last year? 7 starts, I think.
6, 7, something like that towards the end of the season.
So he looked good. That was nice. Obviously, like we've seen some other quarterbacks look good early, whatever.
Right.
That looked different than somebody just kind of from the past. So that was positive. I thought we had was it Bartlett?
Bartlett.
Really liked him on the defensive side of the ball. Evan Pryor, obviously, like the first time he touches the ball, he takes it to the house. Pretty long run there, so that's nice to know that we got some other guys in the stable there that are going to be able to perform. You've got a team that has 47 new scholarship players. I think that was put out on the broadcast yesterday, and they got 26 of those guys out of the portal. Coach said in the press conference afterwards that 34 players made their debut for UC yesterday, and they were cycling players in all over the place, and we can kind of talk about that as we break down each of the units or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of my overall. Like, this is a game that you look at and you're kind of like, where could things go? What do we need to kind of clean up a little bit as we get into the season? I don't want to like downplay Towson or whatever, but like the actual season that starts next week. Like, what do we really need to focus on?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I think, I thought Townsend had a good game plan. I thought offensively that they did a nice job getting the ball out quick at times. Um, and, I think offensively, you see for the most part, I mean, they played pretty darn well all told. I mean, they averaged 10 and a half yards a play. Speaking to Sorsby specifically, you always have to look at it as like, would this play have really happened against Oklahoma State or, Kansas State or whatever, or whoever you might play on the season? Like, the Sterling Ball Culture touchdown was a busted coverage. That's not necessarily Townsend related. I mean, anybody can bust a coverage. The Xavier Henderson touchdown, like, I don't know if that's really necessarily Townsend related. He ran by a bunch of guys in the Big 12 last year. We just couldn't get him the ball.
Yeah.
So, those things, I'm not really saying like, oh, well, that would never happen if it wasn't Townsend. I think he's a really good receiver, and he's going to run by a lot of DBs. The thing that I took away from Sorsby's game the most, I think, was he just looked very comfortable. He looked like he was decisive. He looked like he knew where he wanted to go with the ball. You mentioned the joke that I made on the first touchdown drive. It was third down and medium inside the red zone. He goes through his progressions, hits Jamoy Mays across the middle. Maybe he was the third option. Maybe he was the second option, but he was certainly not the first. Because, I rewatched a little bit of it this morning. He looked one way, came back, went through his stuff. And it's one play in the opener, so it's not some, precursor to a Heisman campaign or anything like that. But it was just funny and refreshing, and because we have harped on the way that it felt like the passing game worked last year, that we had a quarterback in that situation that didn't just look at his first read, not see it, and then take off, maybe come up short, maybe throw the ball away, whatever have you. But I think the one thing that jumped out to me the most was I was impressed with the way he played out of structure when not necessarily the play broke down, but just anytime he kind of had to not just stand back there and throw the ball,
right.
Whether it's moving around a little bit, whether it was on the run. I thought he played a really good game in that regard, keeping his eyes down the field, looking to see who's coming back for the ball, looking to see who might be breaking open late. And those are the things that will open up so much more of what they want to do with the run game or with Joe Royer. So I think just from I know there were mistakes. I think he alluded to it. I'm sure they ended up scoring actually, I think on the drive. Maybe it was his run, but like there was the one read option play where he probably should have gave it to Chance Williams. He kept it, and he had like a sack or loss, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, for the first game in this new offense, I think offensively he did what I wanted to see out of a new quarterback, a quarterback that we're all hoping can produce points in a way that they just couldn't last year. The defense wasn't good last year, but like the offense didn't, there were no like, hey, the defense doesn't have it today, we got to go score 40. That was never happening. Yeah. So I feel like with him, I thought the pass catchers looked good. We knew what Xavier Henderson was. I thought Joe Royer had a really nice game. I thought the complimentary receivers Tyron Smith didn't even touch the ball, and we talked about him all offseason as like a key guy in the middle of the field. So I thought those guys looked nice. I thought the running backs, I thought Corey Kiner looked a little more slender, had a little bit more wiggle to him. And I thought the O-line did a nice job in pass protection. Didn't open the big holes in the first half. That got going more in like the second quarter, second half. But I thought for the vast majority of the plays, there were no free runners. There was, pretty solid pass protection, and that was without your, projected starting right tackle, Philip Wilder.
Yeah, no. When I think it was the pass. I think it was the touchdown pass to was it Burkhalter? He was Sorsby was rolling out to the side and threw the ball. I mean, it was a perfectly placed pass, and he was not in a traditional drop back passing setup that he was rolling out, and it was almost off of his back foot kind
Yeah.
of,
Mhm.
and there was strength to the throw, and most importantly there was accuracy, and it was downfield accuracy, which, like you said, there were a couple times last year, and a couple can be taken however you want to
Yeah.
take it
I
number
mean,
wise, but Xavier Henderson, guys running open, that passes weren't connecting for whatever reason. Uh, it's nice to see that on some plays that aren't your traditional, like you said, your drop back, be prepared. Like, this is how we're going to do it. It was, if something comes up and it's there, he's able to make the pass.
yeah. I mean, the one to Burkhalter, he obviously on that throw was like, just make sure I get it there.
Yep.
He's so open. But yeah, the one to Henderson is kind of that typical short roll, like kind of half roll, and you build the pocket and you have the guy on the big post. I thought the ball, actually the throw before the touchdown to Henderson on the, I don't know if you want to call it seam or just kind of mid, it ended up being more middle than just straight seam, but the ball to Royer, it was that was probably his best throw of the day, because it was a little up and outside where only his guy could get it. Even on some of his incompletions, there was one down in the student section end that Henderson didn't come up with, and even if he did catch it, he probably would have had a foot on the end line. But nobody else was catching that except for our guy. So it was good placement. I thought some of the play calling was creative. I really liked the play where they kind of faked. They put Chance in motion, in quick motion, faked the throw to him, hit Royer on the backside on the tight end screen with the blockers out in front. The call in the end zone, they were feeling it on the "you're on your own 3-yard line. Let's run fake bubble motion to a wide receiver with the option to Tony Johnson." That one was definitely yeah, let's just we're feeling pretty good right now, because that's a pretty wild play call to run in your own end zone, basically. But other than that, no delay games, no false starts. From an offensive standpoint, that was I mean, no turnovers. Well, Vic Dawson did have the turnover, put the ball on the sideline hand. Great run. I mean, he broke that tackle, and he's in there to do, but got to switch the ball over to your right hand, and you probably don't
Yeah.
fumble there. But no, I think all in all, from an offensive standpoint, I mean, they were good. Looking at game on paper, your yards per drop back, 97th percentile. EPA, expected points per play, 56% or 93rd percentile. I already mentioned the yards per play is 99th percentile. Success rate 95th. Offensively, it was a solid game all the way around. I'm excited to see where that can continue to go, because I think when you have confidence in your quarterback. I mean, we talked about it so much. Chad and I talked about it so much. Is how many things did they want to do last year that they just felt that they couldn't? Whether it was guys couldn't get open, quarterback couldn't make the play, offensive line wasn't protecting. So if you have more confidence in all of those pieces, how much does that allow you to expand and expect? It obviously starts at the quarterback spot, and I think for game one, I'm not really sure you could look at what Brendan Sorsby did and think of too much that you would gripe about.
Yeah, no, and really, I don't think you can gripe about much that the offense did as a whole. I mean, I know if you look at the a lot, for those of you that may be new to this, we do reference game on paper quite a bit, but they landed right in kind of in the middle, 45th percentile on the with the expected points added per rush. So like that's like the only thing that is right in the middle. Everything else was 90th percentile or above. I guess there's a couple of things in here that are in the 70th percentile. And you've got that, so those are all green. That's what you want to see. The purple stuff, that's what you don't want to see. They have our explosive plays in here is 6.
Yeah.
I think we had 8 plays of 20 plus yards.
Yeah.
So I don't know
what
their like cutoff is or what their like exact
is that.
But I mean that's what you want to see. That's what you want to see against a team like Towson. You'd like to see that every week. Obviously, that's going to be more difficult as the season goes on.
Right.
But overall, happy with where the offense is at, or what they were able to show. And I think there were 9 guys that had at least 1 reception and 4 with over 50 yards. Is that right? Or was it 5?
At least 3. Corey had over 50. Vic had over 50, and Evan had over 50. I don't think Chance or Manny got over 50. A bunch of
Corey, Victor, and Evan all had over 50 yards rushing. Receiving, we had 9 guys with at least 1 reception, and 1, 2, 3, 4 with over 60 yards receiving. So
right, but I mean the
like
way that
spread the ball out.
It's the ideal way that you want to drop an offense. You have a main outside wide receiver that can go deep, can go intermediate, is big body guy, fast guy. We got that in Xavier Henderson. You want to have a big movable tight end. Game 1, game 1, but Joe Royer had undoubtedly, I don't think to a man, if you went to everybody in the football office and said who was the MVP of fall camp, Joe Royer. I mean, the guy who delivered almost every single day, if not every day, and then he comes out on Saturday and shows you all the different things he can do.
Hurdling people, even
hurdling a guy, taking a screen pass for a long run, running up the seam, beating whoever, whether it was a safety, corner, linebacker, I'm not entirely sure, but like beating a guy there. Shows you all the things there. Shows you the stable of running backs that they felt good about. So off the structure of the weapons offensively is there. You just need a guy that can deliver it to them. And it feels like that, as we continue to grow, as they continue to work on fine-tuning things, that Sorsby definitely has the chance to be that guy. So a lot of I feel like a lot of arrows, regardless of opponent. If you just watch the structure, if you just watch the flow, the feel of it all, just you can still be happy about it, even while also saying, like, I understand it's Townsend. I think Townsend had some pretty good players on both sides of the ball. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a pretty solid year. I mean, they had basically a 500 year last year, but played Maryland and then 4 ranked FCS teams. So they're going to play some good teams. We'll see how their season goes, but I think if we want to just start off offense got a very good grade from me.
Yep, I would agree with that.
So we'll switch over now and talk some defense, which I think there are. I'm going to be probably more measured than most. That tends to be where I stand on things.
I'm not jumping off any bridges.
But at the same time, there certainly there's levels,
Yeah.
So first off, we've talked about it. I was glad to see it. They played a ton of dudes, especially on defense. Like
I was gonna say, if you pull up whatever stat website you like to pull up, and you get to the Cincinnati defensive part, and you're gonna scroll for a while with all of the names of guys that were involved in the game.
Jaquan Sanks gets the start in safety, first freshman, I think, what they say since Marquise Copeland,
2015,
2016, something like that. So big honor for him. I mean, he had flashed all camp, but then it sounds like once they got into kind of like the true game prep modes of camp is maybe where he really kind of grabbed onto that role. But either way, like they had to play a bunch of guys. You got to see, you got 40 something new guys. You got to see what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the hindsight, the maybe, but not bad, but just the negative part of that sometimes is you're playing a bunch of guys and you're kind of built, moving them in and out. So the continuity is not necessarily going to be there at the jump because some guys are maybe playing with different guys, or you got the first team line in with the second team linebackers and safeties, or whatever matches you want to have. But I kind of felt like maybe some of those threes, they might have played like just a little too hard. Like, maybe could have waited a little bit to the second half, but that is a minor gripe. So, I think some of the issues are related to new defense and just playing a bunch of dudes to see what you got.
Yeah.
The defensive line thing, like, I'm not sure why people are super surprised. We talked about it all offseason, and especially when the best player probably on the whole team isn't playing.
Right. Well,
you're projected.
He's one of the best players in the country.
Right.
And he's not
projected
playing.
Starter at one of the edges going into camp. Now, who knows what would have happened, but Micah Coleman not playing. Jalen Hunt, everybody raved about how great of an offseason he had. Would have certainly been the starter with Dante being out. And even if Dante was in there, would have been playing a bunch. So a defensive line that we already had questions on, especially with getting to the quarterback, is down two of your maybe most proven guys. Like, Micah Coleman's a pretty proven guy in college football. Like, he's played a bunch of snaps. Jalen Hunt's played a bunch of snaps. Dante's obviously played a bunch of snaps. So some of this, I'm like, yeah, I'm not super surprised. Now, like I said, levels. I'm still learning the 3-3-5 and, who exactly is responsibility. Like, what is your responsibility? I felt like watching that the edges were crashing down a lot. Now, maybe they were told to, but the linebackers weren't necessarily kind of filling in behind there. And it felt like Towson was trying to run a lot of between guard and tackle, and we were crashing and filling that gap, and their backs were just kind of like, not bouncing it wide like to the numbers, but just off the tackle.
Just enough, yeah.
And our linebackers or this new star safety position weren't there, and we were seeing just a ton of like 6, 7, 8 yard runs.
Well, I mean, I think Coach Satterfield mentioned it in his post game. He said, on some of that with this, new defense and rotating in a lot of guys, there were quite a few times where they were missing their gaps. They weren't they were necessarily where they were, I think he said 8 to 9 linebackers rotated through and like 12 DBs. But I mean, you got to get those dudes in there. See what you got.
Yeah. I mean, you have to figure that out. And, I don't know, hopefully Dante comes back soon. The other guys obviously aren't coming back. Jared Bartlett, I thought, had a really good game. I mean, he obviously had the sack on the first drive. He had the stop on the 4th down play, inside of our own 5. And he actually, on the 3rd down play, he got through on that and forced the back to take a sidestep, which allowed, other Bearcats to come in and make the tackle to keep him from being able to bounce it a little bit and pick up that 1st down on the 3rd down play. So he showed up big on both those plays. Had another QB hit like right after he threw the ball later in the game. Other than him, and we've talked about the linebackers that we were kind of excited. I did not think they had a very good game. I thought they got beaten coverage often.
The slant, the 76-yard slant touchdown.
Jack Daniel got beat, and Trey Gallagher was out of position at safety to allow that to become that long run. I mean, a wide receiver on a linebacker, I'm not surprised he got beat.
Right.
But then the safety has to know that we have a linebacker on a wide receiver, and I need to maybe help that guy out a little bit more. So, you have a couple of, I felt like anytime they wanted to just kind of like take the snap and swing it out to the running back, that was about an automatic 7-8 yards. The linebackers were a little slow getting out on those plays. So, it's again, first game, new scheme, playing a bunch of guys, but I just thought that whatever the dynamic is with how they're playing the run with the 3 down and the linebackers, it just didn't work because new scheme, playing a bunch of guys, whatever, you can't give up that many yards on the ground. They had a 17-yard run in the second quarter where, on the Bearcat sideline where Josh Minkins just takes a bad angle and runs right in to the defensive lineman. So, and those things are going to happen regardless of whether it's Townsend or Iowa State, but they're the things that need to be cleaned up because a 17-yard run in that game is maybe a 30-yard run or 70-yard run in to Ollie Gordon or, somebody else. So it's all a work in progress. I think that I'm not as worried about that part as much as I'm worried about that, like, outside of Cam Wilson, I don't remember. I mean, maybe one play here or there, but like outside of Cam Wilson, nobody on the defensive line got any consistent pressure on the quarterback. It was a whole lot of run, stand up your man, and then try to figure out a way to get around him. I mean, he had some actual moves. He beat his guy on an inside move a couple times, had some speed around the edge. So I'll be interested to see if he gets more run next week against Pitt. I'll be interested to see if they play Jared more at the edge. I know on the first third down, they basically had him on the edge as a fourth D lineman. But like, I mean, Rob Jackson got the start. Didn't really see anything from him. Eric Phillips played a bunch of snaps. Didn't see a ton from him.
He got into the backfield maybe once or twice. I think the first play of the game, maybe.
Yeah.
Like the first defensive snap of the game, he got in there, I think. And how much of that also, like, so you can see that now, right? Like it's a new scheme for them, new guys, whatever. Like first time that it's implemented against like a real opponent that's not like the guys that you're playing all the time,
right?
So you can see where like maybe you can now point out like these guys aren't understanding this part of it, and we need to go in and tweak it. How much of it is like you said, like the lack of continuity because of rotating so many guys out? How much of it is that maybe they kind of stripped everything down to the very bare minimum, and it's just like, we're not going to show any kind of exotic, crazy stunts.
Right. It's hard to tell like how vanilla the calls were.
Yeah.
But I mean, yes, I agree with that.
But you still do expect to be able to get into the backfield against Townsend.
Right. You're in these are Big 12 guys against an FCS offensive line. Like, they might have a great offensive line, but like, I still need to see some guys win individually more often, especially on the edges, like Darian Varner, Rob Jackson, Eric Phillips, Brian Sims from his linebacker spot. Like, we need to see more. And, you would think you would see more individual wins just because I'm a better,
faster,
it doesn't matter what
better
the team
athlete
is. Like, I'm a better athlete. I'm bigger. I'm faster. I'm stronger. Whatever. Probably not bigger because D linemen are very rarely bigger than offensive linemen. But
right.
I'm more athletic. I'm definitely quicker, faster. Like, I just didn't see that enough. And if that was already a concern, and if we're not seeing it against Townsend, what is the realistic expectation to see that? And the 3-3-5 is a tough defense if you can't get pressure with the 3 guys that you have down. Now, does Dante change that? Absolutely. Does Dante take on 2 guys on every play that he's in there? Absolutely. Does that then allow them to maybe be more aggressive with the linebackers in the A-gaps? Like, I don't think I saw any A-gap pressure yesterday from linebackers. So, we talked about Bartlett. We talked about Golday being a guy that has experience rushing the passer. Does that become more of a thing if Dante's in there and taking up two guys? But again,
Well, for one, we don't know when he's
I
coming
thought
back.
I thought the secondary played pretty well. I mean, you take out the 76-yarder, and it's a very, very, it's
well, that and then the little it was kind of like a toss up jump ball in the back corner.
Well, you just gotta have.
I mean, that guy makes a play. I mean, he made a play.
Makes a play, but like you take out he throws for 20 something, almost 30 times, and you take out the one play, you have and so you obviously don't take it out in the grand scheme of it, but it's like you're looking at.
Well, that was over 100 yards of passing between those two plays.
In those two plays, right? So you have, I think he was 19 for. Cam Davis was 19 for whatever. So you take out two plays, he's 27 attempts for under 200 yards. I mean, that's very solid yards per attempt. But he had way too much time to stand back there and throw. Yeah. I mean, the one when we muff the punt and it's third down and he throws the incompletion in the end zone. I mean, he could have stood back there for 5 more seconds. Like nobody was near. So, and, had some situations like that where then he ended up running. You give up that drive at the end of the first half where you get him in 3rd and 19.
Yeah.
And you end up giving up a first down on the 4th down play. I mean, they were really.
Because you let him get into 4th and manageable at that
4th
point.
And 5. You give up 12 yards on 3rd and 19. And then it's 4th and 5, and then nobody's open. He runs for 7 or 8, whatever it was. But, so there are plenty of things to clean up defensively. I'm not in any way ready to say that I'm worried or, I mean, it's going to take a lot for me to turn on Tyson Vite. I'll just tell everybody that right now. Yeah. Like, I like the guy a lot. The defense is proven. Iowa State has had good defenses, and they've done it without having, they're not stocked with the freaks and the 4 and 5 stars. So there's no reason to think that he can't do the same thing here. There's just a lot of adjusting. I'm sure we're going to see less guys next week.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why, I wanted to point that out. And I know you mentioned it because I didn't get to watch the first half of the game while it was live, and I had sent you a text message, and you're like, well, there's been a ton of dudes rotating in and out. And then after the game, when I'm looking at the stat sheet, and there's like 27 guys on defense that recorded some sort of stat on the field. I mean, that right there's a ton of dudes. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, I think 26 of them had a tackle. So, and then the one was like a quarterback hit that I think Harris Adams had. So, it's nice to see that they have the option to rotate all those guys in. That's kind of what you want to see in this whatever you want, this warm up game, this game at the beginning of the year, that you can afford to put these guys in, especially when, like you said, there's 40 some odd new guys on this team. Yeah, you can sit there through spring ball. You can sit there through fall camp. You can go against each other, but there's always something different when you're on the field in an actual game against guys that you don't play against.
Yeah, it's excuse me. Yeah, they're both Simeon Coleman, Monte Whedon played. We mentioned a ton of DBs played. Pretty much every spot on defense, a ton of guys played. So I like that, but at the same time, you have to you have to take the good with the bad. I want to see all these guys get out there because they need to see what they have. But you also have to understand that a lot of them, it's their very first college game, or it's their very first game at this level, and there's going to be mistakes because it's a new scheme, and they're playing against an offense that is, probably scouting them from whatever Iowa State did. They're calling audibles. Like there's just a lot more that goes into it than just, go out, roll the balls out. Couple other things. Still have to laugh at special teams. Like the whole point of Michael Massari being the punt returner is because he's very, very sure-handed, and so of course he fumbles the very first punt that he gets. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
That's how that works.
So, it's I just shake my head and laugh because it's like you put the guy out there who all he does is catch everything they threw at him in the spring and the fall, and then he misplays the first, misreads the flight of the punt. And
I was gonna say that. I mean, that was 100% what that was. Like, I mean, if you watch it, and if you just see like the game cast where it says he muffed it, and you're like, oh, like what's going on? But then you watch it, and you're like, well, he was 15 yards too far forward, and had
it was a very good punting game. If you're into kickers, I thought both punters were very good. And then we have, the end of the half, I think, was the sequence that just probably put a pretty poor taste in a lot of people's mouth as you miss a short field goal and then turn around and give up that drive to give them the touchdown at the end of the half. I think the very just silly, dumb, unnecessary 2 roughing the passer penalties. I mean, you basically gave away 9 points in this game. They kick a field goal on the muffed punt. You miss a short field goal at the end of the half. And then on the drive of one of the roughing the passer calls that was on 3rd and 14, when they throw an inside screen to a tight end who you tackle essentially for no gain or very few yard gain, you're getting off the field, probably getting good field position. You rough the passer there. Now, 100% stop them again. Like, it wasn't like they were in field goal range. Like, go down, like, stop them. But they go down and kick a field goal. So there's nine unnecessary points that were either not scored by us or scored by them. I thought kickoff was good. I thought kickoff return was good. The first, once you saw that they were not going to kick it deep, they did a good job adjusting and having the backline guys, Logan Wilson and Manny Covey, come up a little bit so they could catch the ball on the run. But yeah, the punt return, hopefully that's the end of it. And just, you can't miss short kicks. Can't miss
a 31-yard field goal. You got to bury it. And
that should be automatic. Should just be step up, knock it through.
I mean, it didn't look comfortable from the start on it, and then it was like a low, just duck hook.
Yeah.
So,
but all in all, I think there's certainly things, especially defensively, that you can't not have some concern about, but they're not new concerns. Like,
right.
I don't want to harp on it, but once these guys got hurt, we were like, well, we already had questions on the defensive line, and now 3 guys that we expected to be significant contributors are not playing.
Right.
So not really like what did you I'm not going to be like what did you expect, because I still expected the run defense to be better. I thought the linebackers outside Jared Bartlett had a rough day. And then we talked about the lack of the pass rush, but that was already a concern. So now it's still a concern.
Right, like there was nothing to assuage that concern.
No, certainly not.
But you can't always, and I know it, like we've already said, it's kind of like being a dead horse at this point, but like it is a new scheme. There aren't a lot of new guys in there playing in this new scheme. And there was the lack of continuity. I know these seem like a bunch of excuses, but it's like they are factors. It doesn't help that it didn't make it look, like everybody knew what they were doing whenever they were in there. But yeah, like next week, I think obviously we went through this last year. We beat EKU, went and beat Pitt, and there was a lot of everybody's high flying for the first 2 weeks. Yeah. I think the end of the show after Pitt, you said, now let's just not get out over our skis. And unfortunately, some folks did, and they came crashing down.
I try to be try to be level-headed, try to be measured. I mean, you can look at things critically, and assess what you saw and not, but also not go. I mean, I think I had someone in the BCJ Twitter mentions being like, that's going to be their only win all year. I'm like, well, then you, sir, are going to have a rough fall. And I mean, maybe it is, but I'm not gonna.
Maybe he just wants to free up his Saturdays.
Hey, yeah, it was a nice day out. There were a lot of things you could do. You watched the Bearcats. We're grateful. But exactly. Game 1. Are we allowed to use the maybe one of the biggest football coaching player cliches ever is you take the biggest jump from game 1 to game 2.
Hey,
I always love that.
It's the first game for everybody.
It is the first game for everybody.
Yeah.
But
Norbik, I didn't pay like a whole lot of attention to him. I'd have to go back and watch him.
Yeah, it seems like even on some of the extra points, even they do seem to come off a little low and a little knucklebally, but
a little uncomfortable.
No, but he knocked through the second field goal like no problems, just like the first should have been the first one. So small gripe, but if you're gonna win some close games, you're gonna have.
Yeah, you can't have some of those other mistakes.
And that's my thing. Is like in the Townsend game, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But like I don't want to see it giving away points, regardless. Whether it's us missing short field goals, whether it's us
handing the ball over,
punts, whether it's Victor Dawson makes a really nice run. I mean, that was the shit that we talked about all last year of not being able to get extra yards. He breaks the tackle, gets the first down, and then fumbles. And then you force a fumble, and then Darian Varner picks it up and starts running, and then he fumbles it right back. Like you don't see a lot of 3 turnover games where only one of them was on the offense.
Was that when I think that was what Sad said in the presser. Like, I don't know if he's ever carried the ball before in his life.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he's in there for. Pick up the short yards. He probably didn't think he was going to be running, 50, 40 yards down the field and didn't think to switch it over to his right hand. So, but hey, learning experience for everybody.
That's a teaching moment. He goes into film this week and he's like, I'll never do that again. Hopefully.
Yeah, he's going to be like Darnell Jefferson in the program. He's going to be carrying a football around the class and on campus all week.
That would be awesome.
Guys are going to be knocking it off the decks because if they recover it and bring it back to the coach, then he's in big trouble. But I think we kind of covered everything we need to cover on Towson. We'll, the look aheads I think were certainly interesting. I'm not going to get into them. We'll get into them in the weeks to come. But the next 3 games, kind of just taking one game. Some very interesting results. Let's go around the nation. We for anybody who's new to this and didn't listen to our preview show last week, we keep it at an hour. Obviously, we recap the Bearcats game, and then we kind of take our big keys from around the country, which will not have Big 12 related stuff in them. Aaron and Chad will cover those. So what's the biggest thing that jumped out to you from games throughout the day, whether it was, I guess, Thursday, Friday, or yesterday?
I was pretty impressed with the fact that Notre Dame was able to go down to Texas A&M and win that game.
It was a real nice win. I mean,
and I know a lot of people, a lot of UC fans hold some deep-seated anger against Notre Dame for whatever reason. I thought we exercised those demons a few years ago, and we're able to kind of root for those guys that are running that program.
Chad mentioned it on Twitter. Like the guys on that staff are such good guys. Unless it has to directly affect UC, I hope they are great. Like Marcus is one of the nicest guys I talked to him very little, but like literally one of the nicest guys I've ever interacted with. Denbrock is, I can't say enough hilarious things and nice things about that guy. Mickens, all those guys. Like, I hope they do great. But yeah, it was a defensive game, and they made a couple big runs, and I have some concerns about Texas A&M's offense, but to go in there week one, get that win. You don't want to really play the schedule game, but it sets up very nicely for the Irish moving forward. I think the biggest thing I took away from yesterday, and it is a surprise, but yet it isn't. It's that Dabo Swinney and his philosophy on the transfer portal need to change very quickly, or he's not long for Clemson. Like, a guy that's won a title and been to the they have not scored a touchdown against Georgia in 3 games. They were 3.5-point favorites in their game. Was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? And they were 13.5-point underdogs yesterday, and got blown off the field. I appreciate I'm going to bring my guys in and we're going to do, our thing. And I'm not, I'm going to be loyal. Great, Dabo. That's not college football now. I love it, your ideas, but you got dog walked. You have a ton of talent. So the development is clearly not there, because they're chock full of 4 and 5 stars.
But it doesn't work that way anymore.
No, you have to, a guy that's a 4 or 5 star 3 years ago, he's not a 4 or 5 star anymore, and you got to replace him with a guy that can play.
The deal is you've got to look around the country, and you've got to Saban said it right on the thing. You got to pay the right guy. Doesn't matter how much, you got to pay the right guys.
Right.
You're gonna have to. That's why he got out of it, right? Because now everybody can do it.
Yeah.
So you've got to pay the right guys, and if he wants to stand on his soapbox and say, I'm not going to do that, then
good luck.
He can stand on his soapbox in the unemployment line.
Yeah. It's Georgia's still going to be really good. But to just play like that and it's not even this one game, I don't think. It's by having this hardline stance against the portal, we have seen what that does to an elite program. Ohio State brought in literally paid $20 million. Their AD basically said it for this year's roster. Alabama, Georgia, Miami, Florida, Texas A, everybody is using it.
Yeah. UC's using
Why
it.
are you being to not use it?
You're essentially handicapping
everybody,
yourself, and it's it doesn't make any sense not to do it.
So it's that one jumped out to me the most, and then I have to give a shout out to my guy Nico. I hope everybody's ready for if this year rolls on for this to turn into a semi Tennessee podcast, because that dude is the truth. They're already talking about nicknames for him in Knoxville, which my favorite is the Tennessee Tribal Chief, obviously with the wrestling background and being Hawaiian. I'm wanting him to cut a promo where he tells the rest of the SEC that they need to acknowledge me. But dude was just put up 69 on Chattanooga, which is nice. So
that's
the other one. No, Penn State, West Virginia.
Did that get
Penn State, West Virginia,
some kind of weird late start or something?
2 hour weather delay. All those games in West Virginia and Virginia got nailed with all the storms that they thought we were going to get throughout the day.
Oh, all right.
Penn State's new offensive coordinator comes over. Andy Kolenicki comes over from Kansas and just says, we're just going to chuck it. And they did. And 34-12 at West Virginia, that's ugly. I thought WVU would fare much better. I don't know if I would say they were going to win. They were a touchdown dogs, but that was not a good look for game one.
But to get waxed
so
we'll
see what happens happens moving forward there. Sunbelt Billy, yikes, just dominated at home by Miami.
Iowa scored 40 points.
They had 6 at halftime, and everybody's like, maybe Brian Ferentz wasn't the problem. And then they went on an offensive explosion in the second half. It scored 40.
I don't know. I mean, Iowa might not have scored 40 points all of last year.
It took several weeks.
Iowa had more wide receiver touchdowns in the second half than they had in 2 seasons ago when they only had 2 for the entire season and 3 last year.
It's always like those games always like made me laugh last year when people were like, "Oh, I'm gonna take the under on the points," and it was like, like 9 points or something. Ugh. So 40 points from Iowa, even though it was against Illinois State. Good for them.
Hey, after the last couple of years, I don't think they care if it's against like Iowa high school, like Des Moines, like
college,
high school, whatever. We scored 40. Hell yeah. But there was some. I won't get into it because Aaron and Chad will, but stay up late and watch Arizona just to watch their wide receiver. Dude is unbelievable. Very much likely top 10, 15 pick next year. Had 10 for like 304 touchdowns. Guy is going to put up some insane numbers this year. Other games, again, first game. So it's like Oregon had a very tough time with Idaho. I mean, that was a 14-7 game in the fourth quarter. I'm concerned about Michigan's quarterback play. We'll see what that looks like the rest of the year. They scored a couple of touchdowns, including a 90-yard, 85-yard pick six towards the end of the game to make it 30-10. Texas Tech going overtime with Abilene Christian was an interesting one.
Yeah. Did you see? Did you see the interception from the Robert Morris guy?
That was, yes, I did, and one of the best plays I've ever seen.
I mean, I still I'm watching the replay of it right now, and it is he's floating in the air, and then like
one hands it and barrel rolls in the air. One hands it.
It looked like a video game glitch.
Yeah, he's like doing a barrel roll in midair while catching the ball with one hand.
Like that was crazy. Mike Gundy calling out Connor Stallions without calling out Connor Stallions was funny.
Get a new IT guy.
Shimon Mater had a touchdown.
He did. Miles Montgomery, I think, had 2 touchdowns.
The
demise of Alabama is greatly exaggerated.
Well,
did you see their first half stats?
42 points.
They ran 20 plays and scored 6 touchdowns. The longest drive was 3 plays. They had 2 or 3 2-play 80-plus yard touchdown drives.
Oh,
like Nick Saban's a legend, but like Kalen DeBoer has won everywhere he's been.
He's been, yep.
He runs a great offense. They're still going to get players. Like, I don't know why anybody thought that they were just going to like all of a sudden suck.
He gutted Saban's office.
Yeah. It doesn't look like your grandparents' living room anymore with wood grain everywhere and the flower fabric pillows. It looks like a normal college coach's office.
A new one. The JMU quarterback. Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
So it's on the John Boy Media did a thing, but he's standing there and I guess the play is over and one of the other, I don't even know who they were playing, pushes him in the chest. And he
the lineman's giving him chest. He does like 2 flips, and the lineman's giving him chest compressions.
It was awesome. You gotta have fun out there. There was another. I don't know what the game was. It was like a smaller college or whatever. They got it was Western Michigan. They got a touchdown scored on them, and that one of their defenders leapfrogged over an official who was like leaning down to make sure the guy landed in the end zone. So he just like leapfrogged over him. So
I'm going through some of these games to see if anything else jumps out.
It was one of those. I mean, it's what they're. I
Oh,
think we hit
Boise,
all the.
if you want to watch all the football, Boise State's running back, Ashton Genty. I don't know if you saw this.
He had
20 carries, 267 yards, 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's probably he's a very high draft pick. He's going to be their guy moving forward. Not their guy. I mean, he's obviously going to be their guy, but like he's going to put up some wild numbers in the Mountain West. They're going to give him the ball a gajillion times. So, just some great individual performances. I mentioned the Arizona wide receiver, Boise's running back. To get the season going.
Dan Mullins retweet. Did you see that?
Yeah. Maybe I don't really have much time for Dan like doing that because like maybe you should have spent more time recruiting and you wouldn't have gotten fired.
Yeah.
So like then like cryptic retweets or not really cryptic retweets don't really do much for me. The interesting thing is I did read an article about how all the former guys that have left since Billy's been there that have a group chat text chain where apparently they just talk shit about him or whatever, and like they mentioned like a couple guys, and in the article it mentioned, I don't know if Xavier Henderson is in the chat, but just mentioned him as like one of the guys that is having success, that has left the program since he's been
elsewhere.
There. So, yeah.
Well, that program is what did they I mean Miami pretty well beat them into the ground yesterday.
Yeah. So. Cam Ward. Yeah. He's a fun quarterback to watch. I think him and Xavier Restrepo, their wide receiver, are going to have a fun season. Damian Martinez, really good running back that transferred in there from Oregon State. I mean, you look at the ACC, Clemson, yikes. Florida State, yikes. If you lose, Florida State plays BC this week.
Boston,
if they have
Boston
Monday
College,
night, if they happen to lose that game, they're 0-2 in the league. They still play Memphis in the non-con, who is not terrible. Like one of the teams that should be I shouldn't even say not terrible. Like they're good. They're one of the teams that's picked to really have a good shot to win the AAC.
Even with an expanded playoff, Florida State could very well play themselves out of
it. Play themselves out in 2
weeks.
Yeah. So I mean, Miami, if they can not Miami themselves, they are sitting. Them and I guess Notre Dame doesn't count as ACC. That would be more for the playoff conversation. But they had a very nice. That was a game where it's like the winner feels really good. The loser feels really bad, and Florida losing probably feels really bad because, I mean, you can't play the schedule game because you don't know who's going to be available when you play. But man, that schedule is brutal. Like there are not a lot of there's not a lot of oh yeah, this is a win situations on that schedule. So we'll get to. I think that's pretty much all I got from the day yesterday. Obviously, when you're at the game, when you're tailgating, it's hard to really know everything that's going on. And then I had to come home last night and watch Bash at Berlin. So
I got to get around to doing all that stuff.
So I will answer Tyler's question. Dave, is the chase deal happening between now and Thursday night, right at kickoff? Well, I don't know if it happens by Thursday night because they don't have to play Thursday night, but I'm just it's just something I haven't really paid a lot of attention to. It doesn't really do much for me. I hope it does, but his situation is different than all these other wide receivers. They all signed deals with 1 year left, and he has 2. So while I understand why he wants a new deal, I do not fault him one bit. I also totally understand the Bengals side of it. You're under contract for 2 more years. We've told you we're going to pay you. Do they get it done? I hope they get it done because I don't think he's going to miss any games because then he's
losing money.
He's giving money back. And if he sits out, I think the rule still is like if he really wanted to take this to the extreme and like sit out, I don't know what it is with the 17 game schedule now, but it used to be like if you sat out 8 or 9 games, then you didn't count as a season. That happened to Le'Veon Bell when he sat out the whole year. It doesn't count as a year, so you'd still have 2 years left on your contract.
Yeah.
So hopefully it gets done. I mean, I would, if it was my money, which is a silly thing to say, it's not. I don't have $140 million to give him. I would think they would be a little more inclined to get this over the finish line, just to have everybody
be done with it.
Have everybody kumbaya-ing their way to the first game of the year. But, that's as much as they have moved into the modern game, there are still elements, especially when it comes to contracts and guaranteeing money and beyond a first season, which is always the point that I'm like, on some of these guys, it drives me crazy because it's like, they're not going to cut him. So who cares where the guaranteed money is?
Right.
Like they always like to have the guaranteed money up front. And that's how they sell it, is like, we don't cut people. So you're going to see the full amount of the contract. And we're giving you a huge chunk of it
right now.
But with a guy like Chase, it's like, who cares? You're not cutting him unless something just wild happens and he can't play football ever again. And then that's a totally different thing than cutting him. So who cares if some of the money guaranteed money is into year 2 or year 3 of a deal? Like he's arguably your top 3 best players. So just get that thing together, get that thing done. But no, it's not something that I have really given much thought, probably because so many other people have given it a lot of thought, and there's certainly exhaustion with it at this point, and it's been the topic's well oversaturated and over discussed.
Yeah. This is usually the part where there would be like a little bit of Bearcats in the NFL talk, but we're not quite there yet. So
nope. Next week we'll get back to that. But that, unless you've got anything else we missed, I think we pretty much nailed it.
I think we did.
With that, I want to thank Aaron for producing. I know he's a little bit under the weather right now, so very much appreciate him helping us out, getting everything set up. I want to thank Jeff for a great season win kickoff show. And then obviously I want to thank Live Healthy Hydrate for, did I say that right? I hope I didn't butcher that.
I think that's what it is.
All right. Live Healthy Hydrate for jumping on and sponsoring the show. I'm definitely going to be checking it out. I feel like a ton of our fans after yesterday, which was not as hot as it's been, but as humid or more humid, should be checking it out, get themselves revitalized and ready to go for Saturday's noon kick against Pitt. So with that, I thank everybody that joined us live. Thank you for the questions. Thanks for being loyal fans of the brunch, and we will see you all back here next week, 9:30, to hopefully discuss another Bearcats victory. Everybody have a great Sunday.